There's a lot of different things in play that we just now said white.
Savannah Chrisley recently shared something crazy about Todd and Julie's life in prison on her podcast. Apparently, they've been teaching financial classes.
You can do all of these different things to help better yourself.
And that's one of the reasons why their sentences got reduced. But there's more to it than that, and you guys won't believe what's actually going on with the Chrisleys right now. When Todd and Julie's prison sentences got reduced recently, I think we all assumed that it was because of good behavior or something like that. But it turns out that that actually wasn't the case at all. Their sentences got reduced for a completely different reason. According to Savannah, Todd and Julie have been participating in and teaching classes in prison. They've been doing this as part of the First Step Act, and this is what led to their sentences being reduced. But here's the twist. This whole thing is actually incredibly ironic, because you guys won't believe what kind of classes Todd and Julie have been teaching. Apparently, they've been giving lectures on a bunch of different topics, but the one that shocked everyone the most was finances. Apparently, the Chrisleys have been asked to teach financial classes, which is insane, because they're literally in prison for their financial crimes. You'd think that would mean that these would be the last classes they'd ever be asked to teach, but apparently that's not the case. It looks like their prisons are happy to have them teach others about finances. Even Savannah herself admitted that this was incredibly ironic, although I don't think she said that because she found it ridiculous that her parents were doing this. I think we can all agree that the Chrisleys wouldn't exactly be anyone's #1 choice for financial advisors. As far as we know, they committed bank and wire fraud. On top of that, they also got sentenced for tax evasion and conspiracy charges. So that doesn't make them come across as the most reliable sources of financial advice. But that's not what Savannah was referring to when she called the whole thing ironic. She actually made another point that I think made a lot of sense. She said that it was ironic because her parents were asked to teach these classes by the prisons, which kind of implies that the system thinks Todd and Julie are trustworthy enough to help others and give them money advice. Yet they're serving time for financial crimes. Basically, Todd and Julie got sentenced to several years in prison, but the system clearly doesn't think that they're that bad. Otherwise, they wouldn't ask them to teach these classes. So it just seems pretty hypocritical and weird. Are they really guilty? Do they actually deserve their long sentences? If the answer is yes, then maybe they shouldn't be leading financial classes. The craziest part of all this is that as far as we know, this wasn't even the Chrisleys' idea in the first place. It's not like they asked to teach these classes. At least Julie didn't. According to Savannah, Julie was actually really surprised when the topic was brought up. It sounds like she was just teaching other kinds of classes. She apparently led some Bible classes and also taught a real estate class. Julie supposedly obtained a bunch of different certificates from teaching and completing all these classes. But then she was asked to teach those financial classes, and she was really taken aback by that, which is honestly fair enough. I agree with Savannah that it's a little weird that the Chrisleys are being actively encouraged to give financial advice when they're serving time for financial fraud. And the whole thing becomes even more ridiculous when you think about the fact that this is the reason why their sentences have been reduced. Originally, Todd was sentenced to 12 years in prison, and Julie was supposed to spend 7 years behind bars. But now it's been officially announced that they will be released sooner than expected. According to the Federal Bureau of Prisons' online inmate search system, Todd is now scheduled to leave prison in January 2033, which means that his prison sentence was reduced by 2 whole years. That's pretty impressive. He must have taught a lot of those classes. And Julie's sentence also got reduced. She's now expected to be released in October 2028, so her sentence is about a year and a half shorter. Savannah did say that Julie was attending and teaching a lot of those classes, so this isn't really that surprising. She even pointed out that Julie has always been an overachiever, so this kind of thing is probably exactly in her wheelhouse. It's clear that both Todd and Julie are willing to do whatever it takes to leave prison as early as possible. Aside from teaching financial classes, Todd is also apparently given a couple of lectures about trauma. Like I said, this is all part of the First Step Act, which is all about rehabilitation. Basically, it's supposed to help inmates pick up some useful skills that they can use once they're out of prison. And by participating in this program, the prisoners can also get their sentences reduced, which is what happened with the Chrisleys. But that's not the only thing they've been doing to get their sentences reduced. After their new release dates were announced, the Chrisleys' lawyer, Jay Surgeon, came out with a really interesting statement. He said that there were going to be some more legal proceedings happening this November that might help get the Chrisleys' sentences reduced even more. According to Jay, there are going to be some changes happening in the federal sentencing guidelines, and this whole process will include things like reduction of sentences for nonviolent offenders. So there's hope that this could lead to Todd and Julie's sentences becoming even shorter. Savannah also confirmed this. So this is what the family is seemingly focused on right now, but that's actually pretty interesting because not that long ago, all the Chrisleys were talking about was getting out of prison completely. Savannah and Jay kept repeating that Todd and Julie's case just wasn't fair. They were trying to convince us all that they were actually innocent and that they shouldn't be in prison at all. All their attention seemed to be focused on their potential appeals. But now it seems like that's no longer the case. Savannah and Jay now seem to be focused on using the system to get Todd and Julie out as early as possible. They want their sentences to be reduced, but it seems they're no longer asking for them to be released completely and declared innocent, which is interesting. It makes me wonder what changed. Did they receive some bad news behind the scenes? Last I heard, they were still focused on their final appeal. Jay even said that there was still hope. So what changed? Why did they seemingly give up? Are they still working on the appeal behind the scenes? Or is that all over now and they just don't want us to know about it yet? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. The Chrisleys were always so adamant that they were innocent. If their final appeal failed, I could see why they might want to cover that up for the time being, because it would just not be a great look for them. It's better to focus on them teaching all these classes and getting their sentences reduced than on the fact that their appeal might have failed, especially since this was probably their last chance at leaving prison altogether. I wonder if Savannah will actually address this sometime soon, or if she and Jay will now completely ignore that part of their plan and shift their focus completely to reducing Todd and Julie's sentences as much as possible. What do you guys think? Do you think the Chrisleys' appeal might have fallen through? And what do you think about Todd and Julie teaching financial classes in prison? Let me know in the comments below.